Hello everyone, my name is Jerry for Kill the Cast, and today we are going to talk about the cancelled Hellraiser game for the original Nintendo, the NES, the Nintendo Entertainment System, and go into this. Now, there's not much out there about this video game. There's very little out there, but what little there is, I gathered so I can talk to you about it. Now, who wouldn't want to play a Hellraiser Nintendo game? Now, that is the same thing that Dan Lawton, the founder of Color Dreams, thought of when he saw the movie in 1987. So he decided to buy the rights to make a video game. Now, before we get into that, we first got to explain what is Color Dreams. Color Dreams was a game publishing company. Also, they made games also, but whatever. They made unlicensed games for the NES because the NES had a very, very tight stranglehold on who could put out games for their system. They saw the crash in the Atari happen because people could put out whatever they wanted, and so much of it was trash. Things like the E.T. game, that it destroyed it. So, Color Dreams, it was a company that, much like Tengen, they decided to get around it. They had something to get around the NES 10 lockout chip, and they put out games like Master Chew and the Drunkard Who. They were mostly terrible games, but they paid rumored somewhere between $35,000 and $50,000 to obtain the rights to make a Hellraiser game. Now, what would a Hellraiser game look like on the NES? Well, apparently they got the engine for Wolfenstein 3D from id. id Software are the people who made Wolfenstein, Unreal Tournament, and most importantly, fucking Doom. Now, if you've played Doom, you basically played Wolfenstein. Wolfenstein used the same engine, except it was the beginning engine. Doom was the big engine. So they bought the rights for the engine to use that. And the problem with is that engine was too big and too powerful to run on NES. So they had to actually make a brand new cartridge. So Mr. Dan Lawton hired engineer Ron Risley, I'm going to go with Risley, to make a new type of cartridge. Now, this new type of cartridge was called the Super Cartridge. I'm not going to go into specs of that because that's not what you're here for. That's what you don't care. But the big thing to know is that the high cost of manufacturing each Super Cartridge, which was roughly around $50 to $60, would have most likely caused the game to come out at well over $100. We could talk $100 to $150 for just this game. Not completely unheard of, as the Action 52 game, which had 52 shitty games on one cartridge, came out at a retail of $199. So not completely unheard of. But at the same time, horror movie-based games didn't sell as well on the NES because a lot of parents would deem it inappropriate for a child. So that, on top of the fact that most retailers probably wouldn't have carried an unlicensed game out of fear that Nintendo would no longer let them sell their games, is what really, really canceled this game. But there is one other thing. So besides cost, all of that, the game was way too ambitious. Now, they said on one of their advertisements, they actually said there would be over 1 million worlds. Fucking impossible for the time. No way that was going to fucking happen. Their ambition for this game was higher than Frank's ambition to get the orgasm of his life. The ambition they had, they would have had to use the fucking puzzle box to bring fucking engineers from Leviathan to create the goddamn game. So, what would the game been like, you might be asking? Well, we'll get into that. The gameplay focused around a character trapped in the puzzle box from the film. The player could find ways to manipulate the outside of the puzzle box so they could solve it to escape. The Cenobites would interfere in the player's plans to escape. Changing the configuration of the cube outside would have an affected level layout on the inside. Once the puzzle was solved, the player and the demons, aka the Cenobites, would be free, and it would be up to the player to solve the puzzle so they could reverse it to defeat the Cenobites. That's pretty fucking gnarly, if you ask me. So, how far did they actually get in making this game? We're going to go into that, but first, let's have a tea break. And yes, I'm drinking out of a Christmas cup. You want to know why? Because Krampus watches 24/7. And he's got to know I'm representing. I hope you all enjoyed your tea break. Okay, so Hellraiser was worked on for about a couple of months before it was quietly canceled. But they had so much faith in it, they had actually put out advertisements in video game magazines like Gaming, Electronic Gaming Monthly, and GamePro. They even talked about their possibility of being a Sega Genesis and an Atari Lynx version. Atari Lynx was the Atari handheld, for those who don't know. It was not like the Game Boy. It was more like the Sega Game Gear. It had a brightly lit screen. And the cool thing about it is its layout made it to where it didn't matter if you were left or right-handed. You could flip it over and play in the opposite way. But, so, at this point, it is said that they got about, the hardware was done, the supercart was done, the artwork was about 20% done, but there was no programming done. The meat and potatoes were not on the plate. They didn't do it. They said it was going to have a 45-degree down angle view with a maze of stone walls and pits. So Wolfenstein 3D or Doom, except I'm guessing maybe less shooting demons, though I'm sure that would still be there, and heavy puzzle solving. It's a game that I would have loved to see. In fact, there is a Wolfenstein 3D mod, or it might be a Doom mod, I'm not sure, that actually does make it and turn it into a Hellraiser game, which is pretty dope. I haven't played it, but I watched some videos of it, and it was pretty cool. The funniest thing about this, at the end of Hellraiser, the lines, "and Jesus wept" were said. And we all weep that this game never came out. It was just too ambitious. It was too big. It was never going to happen. But the funny underlining is Color Dreams eventually turned into Wisdom Tree. Wisdom Tree produced unlicensed Christian games. Spiritual Warfare, Bible Adventures, Bible Buffet, shit like that. They, later on, when the Super Nintendo was out, created a game called Super Noah's Ark 3D, which uses the Wolfenstein 3D engine and has you playing as Noah, shooting goats with your slingshot. You wouldn't kill the goats, you would put them to sleep, which is pretty funny. And there's a rumor with that always went around saying that id Software was so upset with how Super Nintendo made them change Wolfenstein 3D and take out all the Nazi imagery, the Hitler, all of that, turn Hitler into a giant robot at the end for the Super Nintendo version, shit like that, that they gave Wisdom Tree the engine for Wolfenstein 3D so that they could make this game. It's kind of a big fuck you to Nintendo. But with this information contradicting the Hellraiser information, you kind of have to wonder which one is true. We do know for a fact that Hellraiser, the NES game, did exist at least as an idea because there were advertisements for it. But since no gameplay was actually created, who really fucking knows? So with that being said, that is the Hellraiser NES game that never came to exist. I hope you enjoyed this little informative video. I plan to do more videos like this. I'm going to tackle the Nightbreed video games. Did you know that Clive Barker's Nightbreed had video games? It had 2 video games and one that never saw the light of day. It was supposed to be a trilogy. So we'll get into that in another video. Thanks for watching. Let me know if there's any other older myths, I guess, or unreleased or unproduced things that you would like me to look into and do a video about, and I'll do it. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Go to sleep thinking about playing Wolfenstein Hellraiser 3D on the 8-bit Nintendo system. Goodbye.